are bright and shiny in my mind. You got me loving, hating, crazy indecision in my mind.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast, where the focus is on deer hunting, tips, tricks, tactics, and stories from across the Midwest. And now, here is your host, Aaron Blasey.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Blasey, and this is episode number 61. And today, on the other line with me right now, my trusty sidekick, Batman and Robin, if you will, Justin Fabian. Fabes, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going good, man. Just waiting for summer to set in finally. I mean, it's been cold in Iowa. 40 degrees in March is a little different than 40 in May, so I'm not too happy about it right now.
It is, man. I'll tell you what, yesterday morning, we're recording this on May 9th, so it's Thursday. This is going to drop on Monday. So, what was it, yesterday or the day before? I can't remember. My days are just flowing together now. I have no idea. But it was 35 degrees, frost on the ground, and I'm like, what the hell is this all about?
Yep.
And then this morning, I haven't wore a jacket to work in, a week or longer. And this morning I woke up and I'm like, man, there's a bite in the air. And it was in the 30s again. Today when I went home, it was 78. And it's like, geez, a 30 to, almost 40 degree difference is like crazy. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I agree with you.
Yeah, I got in my truck. I think it was today. I went to the gym at like 9 o'clock this morning, and my truck said 37. Like, this is stupid.
Stupid. Yep.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I leave in a week and a half, and the weather says it's going to be high 70s to the mid 80s for the entire time I'm gone. So.
Yeah, you'll be hiking around the mountains on a bear hunt.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be fun though, man.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The way what the treadmill's telling me is it's not going to be as much fun as I hope it will.
I see you were sent me that Snapchat today, and you were like bumping up the incline a little bit, and I'm like, you better bump it up a little more.
Yeah, yeah. It was a brutal reminder of how out of shape I am in the cardio area.
Oh boy, I started getting into it. I sent you a snap the other day of running and trying to get some cardio in just to try to get the winter weight off a little bit. And man,
Yep.
I about killed myself after 15 minutes of running.
Yep, the winter weight. That's exactly what it is.
The bulking season. But anyway, the last podcast I put out, you weren't on that one. I did one with Keegan and Adam, and we were going to Kansas. And I haven't did I don't know if I think I told you a little bit about our Kansas trip, and it was like the shittiest trip. So we go down there for 3 days, and we're going to turkey hunt and shed hunt. And there was a new piece that butts up to our piece that we've been in talks with a landowner on trying to lease. And, that was one of our big initiatives, was trying to do that. And we did lease it up. So that's a good thing. We've got another piece that we're adding on to Kansas this year. And so it's pretty cool. And we went down there. We knew the rain was coming in, but we didn't think it was going to be literally a monsoon. So Adam and Keegan and I get down there on late Sunday night, early Monday morning. We get up that morning and go look for some birds, and we saw maybe a total of 10 birds all day driving around. Could not find birds, and it was raining on and off that day. We had to shoot a commercial for Reconics and shot a commercial, and it just rained on and off, spitting and sputtering a little bit, but just enough to be annoying. Chris and Casey and Jason got in that night, and then Tuesday was going to be like all-day turkey hunt, Wednesday all-day turkey hunt with some shed hanging in there, and then we were going to leave and come home Thursday. Tuesday, we probably got 7 to 10 inches of rain. It was ridiculous. It never stopped raining, and it rained hard. Like, the roads were flooded. We couldn't get through some of the roads. We couldn't turkey hunt at all because you couldn't get out of the vehicle, and it wasn't even worth it. Luckily, the farmer had burnt all the fields, the CRP fields around, so we just drove around in the Ranger and just shed hunted from the Ranger. What you
mean to say is luckily he did it before you guys got there.
Yes, because last year, that might be something we need to talk about on the podcast a little later, but last year the farmer burnt our truck I'll just give you that. We went to lunch with a rental car and came back, and Chris's truck was completely engulfed in flames with everything. And the only thing that we had with us was the clothes that we were wearing and our cell phones. That's it. I mean, guns, Ranger, 2017 Duramax, all the cameras, all the footage that we had shot for a week, the turkeys that we had killed, like the meat was in the coolers, the Yeti coolers, and the beards, the fans, my laptop, my journal. This one hurt, man. I take a journal since I started in this like 7 years ago. Every trip that I ever went on, I wrote in a journal every night, wherever I went and whatever I did. That's gone because it was handwritten.
Yeah.
So I don't have that anymore. My daughter's, because my daughter was born last year. Her newborn pictures were on my computer that were in there. Luckily, we know the photographer and got those back, but that's good. But yeah, everything. We went right to Cabela's right then and had to buy clothes to go home in. So yeah. Luckily everything was burnt. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, rain the next day, didn't get to hunt the next day, shed hunted more. We found like 7 sheds. But anyway, I mean, it was just a terrible trip. Came home, saw about a total of 10 birds the whole time, and it was all she wrote.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to chalk it up for what it is and laugh at it and move on.
Yep.
Put a couple kokanees down and just watch it rain.
There you go. Oh, there you go. Yeah, well, so today, I want to transition a little bit. Today on the podcast, we got Blake Wollerman from Southern Illinois. And I just said Illinois. It's Illinois. From Southern Illinois. And, you know, as we were doing this podcast, and he's got a really unique story about this deer that he chased, you know, it made me think, and I think you were kind of on the same page, and more of like thinking outside the box and on your tactics or anything you're doing. And, you know, I think in a lot of ways, us as hunters give deer way too much credit. Yes. You know what I mean? In a lot of situations, like, can you think of anything recently that you've just given a deer way too much credit, and it's like, okay, at the end of the day, yeah, they are deer, and they're, you know, they do have a will to live, and it's an unbelievable strong will to live. But what is, you know, the last thing that you've had that's like, wow, you know, I gave that deer way too much credit?
And I can't think of a specific deer that, you know, I gave too much credit to, but I guess like along the same line of thought that you're talking about here, I think sometimes things are so simple that we just make it more complicated than it needs to be when it comes to whitetails.
I can see that. Yeah,
it's like
I agree.
You overlook the obvious a lot of times because you're trying so hard to think 10 steps ahead, and which of those 10 steps, you know, you need to be standing in order to kill it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to realize it's actually not forwards. You got to go one step backwards, and like you're still going to be ahead of them. I guess if that kind of makes sense. Like my buck on public this year, I felt like I was 10 steps ahead of all the other hunters because I went to a spot 200 yards off the road that they were all driving by because they were all racing to go to the deepest, darkest part of the timber. They were trying to get where nobody else was going to go. Well, I did the same thing by going in where they all drove past to get to the parking lot. You know, and
that's a perfect example.
Yeah. I
mean, right there, it's something you overlook, and it's something, you know, that just, it's so simple, and it's like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's just something that, you know, so many people are focused on okay, I had a picture of him here, here, and here, this time, that time. He ate this last year. This was a rotation, so it's going to be beans this year. It was corn last year. Like, I mean, those are all factors, and there's things that you have to play off of. But other times, it's like, just sit back and look at the big picture. Like, what are you missing? And
That's exactly what I was going to say.
9 times out of 10, it's right under your nose, and it's something so simple that it just makes you feel stupid.
I agree. And in those factors, you have to factor those in to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You know, the rotation of crops, whether a piece of ground got logged off that year, or, you got to put in those factors, the weather and everything. But us as hunters are looking for that equation, that big buck equation or whatever it is, but really, like you just said, take a step back, take a deep breath, and start thinking about all the other stuff that you might be overlooking. In this instance, Blake, he got a really unique situation and capitalized on it, and it happened. So, and I don't want to give away just now because it's a really cool story. But I think this is a topic we could elaborate a lot more on, in a later podcast. But I just wanted to kind of bring it up because I think you and I were both kind of thinking a little bit, down this line. And I guess it's just those little things that, and everybody will hear in this podcast what Blake's got to say. And the little thing I'm talking about, it's, a farmer can't get in a field because it was too wet, so they're staining crops in late season and the deer just flocking to it. Yep. It's one of those things, and it's honestly the farm that he's on. He even said it so himself. He would have never hunted this. This is not a farm. It's got one shagbark hickory tree on it. That's it. It's a bean field.
Yeah.
And just so happened the chips fell in his fell in his favor, and he capitalized. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. Take a step back, I think, and like you said, and look at the big picture.
Yep. It can be that simple.
It really can. Well, cool. And before we do get into this, like every week, I want to throw our ABB post out there. And, you guys, for custom strings, check out America's Best Bowstrings. And we've got a promo code still going. It's Fall Podcast. So at checkout, type in Fall Podcast to get $10 off. Your order's $99 and over. So Go do that. Check them out. Pursuit, Platinum, and Premium Series. You're not going to be disappointed. So with that being said, let's kick this over to our interview with Blake. All right, on the phone with us today is Blake Wollerman. Blake, how you doing, man?
Good. How about yourself?
Doing good. It's good weather here in Michigan, and finally can get out and get the bow shot a little bit. It's turkey season still. It's kind of coming to an end, but we're making do and chasing birds, and I haven't been able to kill one yet, but I still got the month of May left to be able to get that done. But everything's good, man. How's everything going in Southern Illinois?
Pretty good. We've been hard after the turkeys. Our season just wrapped up today, actually. Today was the last day. We had a pretty good year. I think I went 9 mornings and seen 12 birds die.
Holy cow.
Can't complain about that. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was probably the best season I've ever had. So that was pretty good.
Heck yeah, man. How many birds did you end up killing?
I ended up killing 2, and then I killed 2 here, and then me and my brother went to Kansas, and he killed 1 there, and then I took 2 other buddies here, and then we had some buddies from Alabama come up, and so we had 12 tags total that we could fill and fill them all. So
that's sweet.
When our buddies from Alabama come up, we killed 4 in one morning, so that was awesome.
Wow, that's a hell of a morning.
Yeah.
Well, Blake, before we get too far into this, can you kind of tell us where you're from and what you do for a living right now?
Yeah, so my name's Blake Wollerman. I just turned 20 years old, and I live in a little town in Southern Illinois called Boyd. It has a stop sign and a church, and that's about it. Population of about 250. I am currently a full-time college student, and then I work part-time at a bow shop when I can, and then I also do a little bit of freelance photography and videography whenever those gigs pop up.
Sweet, man. Now, what county do you live in? Where's Boyd at?
It is in Jefferson County.
Okay. So what's the nearest big city to you?
The Mount Vernon would probably be the biggest town that you might have heard of.
I gotcha. Yep, I know where Mount Vernon is at. So.
Yep, I'm 15 minutes north of there.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yep.
Very cool. Is that where you were born and raised then? That's where you've been your whole life?
Yep, been here my whole life.
Awesome. So, you're a full-time college student. So what are you going to school for right now?
I'm going for occupational health and safety.
Okay. So what do you hope to do with that when you get out?
So I would like to, once I get my degree, I'd like to work for a big company, like an oil company, and then be what they call a safety professional.
Okay.
And so basically just, make sure everything is safe in the work area and like confined spaces, or like when you're starting a new project on just say like a pipeline, you have to make sure everything is up to OSHA standards and everything is safe.
I see. So is that something you've always wanted to do since you were, in high school or little, or, what'd you always inspire to be when you were, growing up?
Actually, I had no idea what I was going to school for until last year. I went to our community college around here for 2 years and just kind of got my generals, and then kind of had to decide something to do. And my dad, he works for an oil company, and so I just kind of, heard about jobs like that, and it was something that I found interesting, and so I went for it.
That's awesome, man. Well, it sounds like you only got a couple years left possibly, and hopefully all that works out for you then.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, growing up in Illinois, I mean, that had been pretty rough for deer hunting, huh?
Oh, it was absolutely terrible.
When I started, I started doing filming and producing and, doing the television thing about 7 years ago. And the first 3 years of producing a TV show, we were hunting a lot in Illinois. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Grigsby, if you've ever been up around that. So the first 3 years, that's, we were hunting the Grigsby. And honestly, at that time, it was, and you can't really prove me other wrong right now, but at that time it was, the best piece of whitetail ground I've ever set foot on. I mean, it was, I believe it. The first, what was it, 2013, the first 14 sets that I had filming with whoever, it didn't matter. I saw a buck over 140 inches, the first 14 sets in a row.
Jeez.
It was unbelievable, man. And, we ended up killing some giants on that lease. And, since then, through Illinois, from an outsider looking in, we hunted it for 3 years. But before that, the guys hunted a couple years before me as well. But Illinois was, the Golden Triangle. It always been, it was the Mecca before, the Iowa and stuff like that. And that's all you heard of growing up. And, since then, it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of fell off a little bit, and you don't hear a lot about it anymore. But I think it's kind of on the upswing again. It's coming back. EHD hit a lot. I don't know if EHD hit down by you at all, but up in our area it did. And I know that affected a lot of people. So, what was your experience with EHD, down by you guys?
So actually, last year I was hunting a deer that we called no brows, and he was probably in the 160s, and he just, I guess you'd call him a 10-pointer, a typical 10-pointer, but his brow tines were only an inch long. And I seen him opening day on October 1st and never seen him or got another picture of him after October 9th. And I hunted him all year long, and never, I guess it had been 3 years ago, actually, 3 seasons ago, and never seen him or had another picture of him after that. And then I went in there shed hunting, and his core area was like a big thicket that we never go into outside of shotgun season. And me and my brother went in there, and between the two of us, we'd found 9 dead bucks from EHD. There was that deer, and then like 4 other bucks that I knew that I had pictures of that I either had hoped to kill in the next coming years or had hoped to kill that year, and then several other little bucks. And that's the only place that's really hit us. Just that one farm that we have, but it hit it pretty good for sure.
That's crazy. 9 all in, 1 year you found them right in that same area?
Yeah, 9 deadheads.
Holy cow.
All on a 160-acre lease.
Wow. That's crazy. So did you see, like, what kind of effect did you see the years after that? I mean, were you seeing, was your age structure had to have been all whacked out of place?
It was nuts. So after that year, that deer that I was hunting, he was 6.5 at the time. And then there was another deer there that was 2.5. And he is the only deer from that group that I seen or had pictures of in the next coming years. So every other buck that I had seen, that I had recognized, died. And then as far as like population goes, prior to then, I mean, you would see, if you went and sat there during November, you would see, 15 to 30 deer. And then the next years after that, you would see 5. So the population, it went down big time, but it's back on the upswing now. The population's starting to go back up. So.
That's crazy. In our Kansas lease right now, last year we saw an apparent absence in the 3.5-year-olds that we had. I mean, they were either 4.5 or older, or they were 1.5 to 2.5. We hardly had any, 3.5-year-old deer. And those good up and comers that you're like, man, he's gonna be something good. Yeah. We didn't have any of those deer hardly. Maybe a couple, 1 or 2 maybe on 4,000 acres. And it's like there had to have been an EHD breakout the year before that we started releasing the ground, just because those deer should be that 3-year-old, and it's just gone. I don't know. I mean, Justin, what about you? I mean, have you seen much over there in Iowa? And I know you've only been there, so you're going on your 2nd year. Have you seen anything over there that's been hit or miss?
I haven't seen too much of it myself yet here in Iowa. I know it affected Bill's farm pretty bad. I think in 2005 or 6. Same thing though. I mean, I think he said he found like 11 on a 1,200 acre farm that he has.
Wow.
And same thing. I mean, it just throws your age structure so far out of whack that, you find yourself passing deer for 3 more years just because the ones you're seeing are only 2 and 3 years old. You don't want to take those genes out of the gene pool just because they're the biggest deer you have as a 3-year-old. So I mean, you still got to revert to those basic management practices, those principles you set out for yourself. But it's excuse me. I don't own or lease any ground here currently, so I don't want to say it's not something I'm concerned with, because it is of concern. It's a big issue, but it doesn't directly affect me the way it would, a private landowner or somebody, invested into a lease.
Now, Blake, when you guys had that breakout, did you guys consider not hunting that farm for a year or so, or what did you guys do? How'd you deal with it?
Yeah, so we actually didn't hunt that farm for 2 years. This year was actually the first year since then that we have hunted it. We had, there wasn't a deer there that we had any interest in killing. So, I normally every year have a certain deer that I try to kill. So I had another farm that had a deer on it. And so I just mainly stuck to that farm and that deer I was trying to kill. And so we never went and even touched that farm for the next 2 years. So. Okay.
So, is that the deer you're talking about? Is that the deer that we're about ready to get into then?
No, it's
not. Okay. So, I going back, I tracked you down on Instagram and we discussed some things, exchanged some, I guess you'd call it DMs if you want to. And, and I saw this story that you had with this deer that you've been chasing for, what was it, a couple years, three years or so?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really wanted to know more on that. So if we could, let's go from ground zero. Let's get into the first year that you found this deer, if it was a year and a half or 2.5, and what made him so special to, to build this whole story that you got to ultimately, getting an opportunity at him this year.
Yeah. So he was 2.5 the first time that we ever had any sign of him or ever seen him or anything. So he was your average run-of-the-mill 2.5-year-old around here. He was a 115-inch 8-pointer, just nothing special. So we really didn't pay all that much attention to him. I mean, we saved his pictures, but we didn't name him and, say, okay, I want to kill that deer. And so we seen him a couple times and had several pictures of him that year. And then the next year he was 3.5, and he then again didn't really grow all that much, and still wasn't something that we wanted to kill as a 3.5-year-old. I mean, I don't like to kill a deer until he gets to 5.5, preferably. I mean, if I have a giant 4.5-year-old, as bad as I hate to say it, I'll probably try to kill him, depending on what farm he's on and how good of a chance I think he has to make it. But so when he was 3.5, then again, he was just an average 3.5-year-old deer. He was still a mainframe 8-pointer, and we then again saved his pictures, and we had quite a few of them, and we seen him. I don't know, between me, my dad, my brother, we seen him a handful of times on the hoof and passed him a couple times, and got some video of him and stuff. And so then the following summer, this next year he'd have been 4.5. We seen him, I don't remember exactly what day it was. It was sometime in July. We had seen him, and
did he make a big jump from the year before to last year?
He
or
did
from
not.
3 to 4. I mean,
no. We were kind of hoping that he would, put on 15, 20 inches, but I don't know, he might have grew maybe 10. He didn't really get any wider or any taller. He just put on a little more mass. And so we thought about shooting him that year. We debated back and forth about it just because he really, he wasn't super special, and we didn't think he was going to really be that big. But we had a lot of other deer that we were hunting that year, so we decided that we weren't going to kill him and hope that he was going to make a jump from 4.5 to 5.5 and put on a good amount of inches.
Yeah, so he was a 4.5. Describe him. Like, how big was he as a 4.5?
I'm going to say he was total inches, not net, because nets are for fishing.
Yep, I agree 100%.
I'm going to say he was 135 to 138 probably.
Okay.
As a 4-year-old 8-pointer.
So, I mean, that's a good 8-pointer, though,
Right, yeah.
But he didn't make that jump like you thought, and like they usually do from 3 to 4.
Right. I mean, as a 3-year-old, he was probably 130.
Okay.
So I was hoping he would be, 140 to 145 at least is what I was hoping for. So he didn't. And then that year we really didn't see him because we didn't hunt that farm that he was on. We were chasing other deer. But we still got a lot of pictures of him. And then it was halfway through that year that we decided to name him because we were getting a lot of pictures of him and stuff. And so I was on my way to school one day, and my neighbor stopped me in the road. This was during shotgun season, and he's like, "Hey, I shot this deer." He's like, "I shot an 8-pointer," and he's like, "I think I hit him high in no man's land." And he's like, I don't know if I killed him or not. And he was like, "So if you guys, stumble upon him, I just wanted to let you know I shot one." So I'm like, okay. So I asked him, what he looked like and stuff, and he described him to me, and he's like, "Oh, he's tight racked and good mass and not real long main beams." And I'm like, okay, wonderful. So we were kind of nervous that he killed him, and then we me and my brother went and pulled a card one day, and we were going through the pictures, and I don't know if you've ever watched the show American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah. Yep.
So we were sitting in the living room going through those pictures, and he popped up on there, and that deer did. And when we were going through him, we noticed that he had a bald spot, like on his back. You could tell where my neighbor had shot him and didn't kill him.
Yep.
I mean, he shot him, right through no man's land. He had a softball-sized bald spot on him, and so we always like to name our deer. It's just something that we've always done. It's just, I don't know, we just like to do it, and we like to come up with unique and stupid names for them.
Yep, I agree. It's just a good way to identify them too.
Yeah, yeah. And so me and my brother we were American Ninja Warriors on TV, and there's a guy on there, and his name was Kevin Bull, and he was like ripped. I mean, huge muscles, and he was bald, and so that's what we ended up naming him, because he had that bald spot on there, and he had a real big body. So it's just
he's Kevin
it's just
now.
one of those things.
He's Kevin Bull now.
Yeah, it's just
That's
kinda
awesome.
cool.
So Kevin Bull, he's a bald 8-pointer running around, and so he's 4 years old, and so shotgun season that comes in what, like around December, 1st of December.
It's the end of November. It's normally it's like the third weekend in November usually.
Okay, so now being a 4-year-old, so you guys saw him a handful of times as a 3-year-old. Now, did you guys ever see him on the hoof as a 4-year-old?
Yeah, I don't think we did, because we never hunted that farm. So
okay,
I don't think we did.
So have you ever seen that, like, in the past with other deer? You know how, some people say, from 3 to 3, they never see him. 4 years old, he's like all over. 5 years old, he's a ghost. 6 years old, he's visible. Do you ever see that at all? Like, as they get older, they get more visible or tend to be more nocturnal?
Yeah. There's a deer that I was actually hunting hard this year too, that we call Goalpost, and he's 6.5, and I counted one day, but I don't remember how many trail camera pictures we have of him. I mean, it's in the hundreds, but when we have 7 in the daylight, and all the rest of them are at night. And every daylight picture we have of him was a 4.5-year-old, and I actually seen him one time when he was a 4.5-year-old, and that's the only time I've ever seen him, and that's the only year that we ever got daylight pictures of him. And when he was 5.5, or when he was 3.5, 5.5, and then 6.5 this year, we didn't get a single daylight picture of him or see him a single time. I don't know, it's just crazy to me how they work like that. I don't know if it was.
Yeah, I had a deer like that this year. I mean, as a 3-year-old, he was nocturnal, never saw him once on the hoof. This year I ended up seeing him like 6 times on the hoof, more pictures in the daylight. He was just more visible as a 4-year-old. I was just curious. A lot of guys say that, that happens, but I would have thought it would have been the exact opposite. 3-year-old, he would have been all around. 4-year-old, he'd just be a ghost, getting smarter, being in a higher pressured state, and just kind of going to lockdown. But that was total opposite.
Right. What I thought about that Goalpost deer was, as a 3.5-year-old, you're apt to think that they're in the daylight more. And so what I thought was, maybe when I got those pictures of him as a 4-year-old, I'm like, well, maybe once he turned 4, his core area shrank. And so now he's just happening to be daylighting in a place that he wasn't last year, because he was in a broader area. But
yeah.
And then once he turned 5 and 6, I didn't get any daylight pictures of him. I'm like, okay, well, that's not the case. But
I got you. So you were chasing Goalpost as well, or I'm sorry. So back up. He's, this Kevin Bull deer. So you're watching American Ninja Warrior. You name this deer. So what's your plan? You and your brother and your dad going forward for that deer, and what were you thinking?
So we had decided that regardless of what he looked like next year, when he turned 5, we were going to kill him. And so we had, let's see, I don't remember how many more pictures we had of him after gun season, and we had a fair share of him in our standing bean plot. And
Did you end up finding his sheds?
we did not. I have the worst luck finding sheds.
Welcome to the club.
If it doesn't stab me in the bottom of the foot, I'm not going to find it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I don't. People that find a lot of shit. I mean, I walk for miles and I just can't find them. I don't know if I'm cross-eyed or if I just. I don't know.
You know, I had this discussion the other day. We were in Kansas and we were shed hunting and turkey hunting. We ended up finding 7, but it's like, you know, there's how many years of sheds? I mean, you could say 30 years of sheds out there somewhere. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you just stumbling upon them? Like, I don't get that. You know, it's like the deer move. I mean, obviously, you know, they move in the winter to, you know, thermal cover and food. They're trying to find the food that they can, but it's like you could walk. We walked a lot and walked a lot of, you know, late season food, and we found most of our sheds in transitions, a couple in thermal cover, and a couple on fence rows. Never found any by food. And it's crazy.
Wow.
And I'm the same way though, either cross-eyed or my mind's somewhere else and I'm not looking at, I don't know, man, but
I think my biggest problem is when I'm walking through there, I'm too busy looking for a tree that I can kill a buck out of instead of looking for a shed.
I agree. Justin, did you find any sheds this last year in Iowa?
We found a few on public land. Ironically, most of them in food.
Really?
Yeah. You and I talked about a spot. Man, I don't know how long ago it was, but there was a place that had standing beans on it that was in a piece of public.
Yep.
And Cooper and I and another guy from the office went out there one day, and we found like 3, I think. And then we went back there again and started walking all the ridges and found like 4 more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those guys that are finding like 15, 20 sheds a day is just unreal.
Yeah, that's Cooper. He's a freaking hound dog when it comes to finding sheds.
Yeah.
He found like 2 match sets and one that he didn't find a match to back in Wisconsin. The 2 match sets both went over 150.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So,
yep.
They're out there.
Yeah, they are. There's a lot of years of them, too, somewhere. But, so, Blake, you guys didn't find the sheds to this deer. And, you know, what were you thinking then? Is he's died of winter kill or maybe got an infection? Is that what you're thinking, or what's your thoughts?
We really weren't too worried about it because during the winter, when it got, like, super cold, we think he bedded on the neighbor's ground anyway. So and we hadn't found him in the previous years, and we'd looked, so we weren't really all that concerned about him dying. So then the next summer, so this had been this past summer.
Yep.
We stumbled upon him end of July we seen him, and so we decided that regardless of what he looked like, we were going to kill him, and so we were hoping that he made a pretty big jump, but he hadn't. He had just put on some more mass and hadn't put on any more tine length or width or main beam length or anything.
So what's he look like now as a 5-year-old? What's he scoring as a 5-year-old?
So this is the year that I killed him, and we really didn't think that he grew any at all. We still thought he was high 130s.
Okay.
So I have a real bad problem of underscoring deer. And it's bad. And then so I ended up killing him, and we put the tape on him. He was 143 and 7/8.
Okay.
So he grew. Well, I say he grew 6 to 8 inches, but there's no telling what he actually scored the year before. You know, and knowing me, he was probably 5 inches bigger than I thought he was. But
I gotcha. So you see him in July, and then, you know, in the next coming months coming up to, you know, hunting season, were you guys seeing him a lot? Was he pretty patternable, or what was your plan? You said you were hunting another deer as well, so was he kind of on the back burner?
So yeah, me, my brother, and my dad decided that, if we wanted to hunt him, that we would kill him. But he wasn't going to be my first choice on what deer I was going to hunt. That deer I was talking about earlier, Goalpost, he was actually my number one hit lister going into this year. So I was actually hunting him super hard, and then we started getting a lot of pictures of Kevin, and then I actually seen him. If the wind wasn't right for hunting Goalpost, it was more than likely going to be right for hunting Kevin, which very rarely ever happens to me, that two opposite winds are perfect for two different spots and two deer I want to hunt. So I actually seen him, I don't remember, November 9th, I believe it was. I hunted for him, and I seen him, and he come down the ridge. He was locked down with, he wasn't locked down with a doe. He was chasing a doe and just didn't come close enough. I got some video of him. So after that, I decided to hunt him for the next couple days, and when I wasn't at school. And so I was hunting him, and then the wind switched, and so I went back to hunting Goalpost. And so whenever we were getting a lot of pictures of him. I mean, a lot of them were on the same camera in just about the same area. And then I went back to hunt Goalpost for a while, and we went and pulled a card probably half mile away from where we were getting pictures of him. And we were going through those pictures, and there he was. So that kind of threw us a curveball. I would assume that doe took him over there, because it was 3 days after I had seen him with that doe that we got the pictures of him over there.
How far did that doe take him?
I'm gonna say right at a half mile.
Okay.
Which isn't super far, but we had never got pictures of him over there before.
Mm-hmm.
It was to the north of where we normally got pictures of him, and we had pictures of him further, like a half mile to the south of where we originally did. So it was kind of just a curveball. And so I kind of made a move on him, I guess you could say, where he was at normally, and then where the pictures that we got of him that we didn't expect. It was in between two big blocks of timber. It kind of looked like an hourglass. And so there's a pinch point right in the middle of them, to where if he was going to go from one block of timber to the other, he was going to go through there, or he was going to go through a wide open field that is right beside the road. And, possible, but I liked my
highly
opportunities.
unlikely.
And you're right. Yeah. So we did not have a stand in there or anything. So I grabbed my lone wolf and my sticks, and I went in there and hunted that for a while, found a good tree, and seen a lot of deer, but never seen him. And so we stopped getting pictures of him we were getting pictures of him, regularly, like every, 3 days at least. And
all in daylight, were they?
Most of them were at night, but we did have a couple daylight.
Okay.
A lot of them that we had were on scrapes.
So this was mid-November, you were saying?
Yep. It was. I seen him the 9th, and then we got the 12th would have been when we got the picture of him that we didn't expect, and it was the 13th when we pulled that card. And so it was the next couple of days after that I had made a move on him and was hunting him.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so I hunted in there for a while, and seen a lot of deer, but never seen him. And then we started getting pictures of him for a while, and then where I was hunting Goalpost, I had a cell cam up, and so I woke up one morning and had a picture of him the previous night, a couple hours after dark, and he was going back to what I think is his core area. So I decided to hunt him for the next couple days, and the wind had switched too, so it was, a perfect scenario to go back after him and, kind of give Kevin a break and see if any more pictures popped up of him. I assumed that he was locked down with a doe and just wasn't, going very far, wasn't searching for another doe whenever we weren't getting pictures of him.
Okay, so to go back, the picture that you got on the cell cam, did you get a picture of goalpost then?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so you got a picture of goalpost when you woke up, so you figured that deer shown back up. He was your number one, so you're going to go back after him then.
Yeah, so pretty much I thought that was my best opportunity. And I would, he was my number one buck anyway. So I thought I had a better chance of killing him. And the wind was wrong to hunt Kevin anyway. So that's what made me hunt him.
Okay, so you went after goalpost. Did you see goalpost or get close to him at all, or what?
I did not.
How'd that work out?
Nope, that deer flat out kicked my tail all year long. I'd never seen him one time and never had a daylight picture of him. All of them were at night. Did find a shed off of him though.
Did you?
Yeah.
So when did you decide to pull the plug? How long did it take you to pull the plug on goalpost and be like, Kevin's showing up pretty regularly, I'm going to go after him?
So we hadn't had any pictures of him the rest of November. So, this was through shotgun season 2. So I'm like, we kind of thought that he got killed.
Are you talking about goalpost or?
No, Kevin.
Kevin, okay.
Yeah, we hadn't had any pictures of him the rest of November, and then we got a picture of him December 3rd, I believe it was, and so we knew he was still alive, and it was at night, and so I went and hunted him a couple more times from like the 3rd to the 10th, whatever evenings I could get in a tree that I didn't have class. And I never seen him. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not doing any good where I'm at. So I'm like, I got to find this deer. And by this point I'd pretty much gave up on goalpost for the year, because when it gets cold, he pretty much goes on the neighbor's ground that we can't hunt. I mean, my only chance at him is going to be during the rut. So I decided after those few days I'd hunted him in December that I wasn't going to hunt for him. I was just going to grab my binoculars and I was just going to drive around and hope to see him in a field. So I seen him on December 16th. I seen him out in the field, and he was 70 yards off the road where I'd seen him, and the field he was in it's an 80-acre bean field, and it's got a couple waterways in it, and one of the waterways has some, I'm not even gonna call it woods, I'm gonna call it brush, and there's one tree in there on the very point of it, and he was about 40 yards from that tree, and it's a shagbark hickory tree, which I absolutely hate to hunt out of.
They're loud.
And yeah, noisy and slick. And
yep. So you sent me a picture of this 80-acre field, and I kind of want to paint a better picture for everybody listening. So this 80-acre field literally is a wide open ag bean field, right?
Right.
And it's like you said, you got waterways, and then one waterway, it's got like, I don't know, from the picture it looked like it's kind of like autumn olive brush, just like thick tag elder with one shagbark hickory out on the point of it, right?
Yeah, that's like 30 foot tall.
Yep.
So the guy that owns that ground, he's a farmer down the road from us, and yeah, he lets us hunt all his ground. But I'd never hunted there before, and so I went and talked to him just to make sure it was still all right, and he gave me the okay. And so the next day I actually had something to do, so I couldn't hunt that day. So the next day, the 18th, so I seen him on the 16th, and then the 17th I couldn't hunt, and then the 18th I had two options. I had to have a southwest wind to hunt it. I mean, that was the only possible wind. And whenever I seen him, there was like 50 deer in that field. So
Why
I
were the
had to
deer
have
coming to this field? Was it standing beans?
So in the actual field wasn't, but the waterways, they were lower than the rest of the field, and they were too wet whenever that farmer cut them. So there was actually some standing beans in the waterways.
Okay. So the deer were just scrounging, looking for any type of food, so the deer were just filling up on these waterways?
Yeah, I mean, they were just piled in those waterways.
Okay.
And this field, this tree on that point it's like 70 yards off the road. So these deer were crossing the road to get into that field. I could either sit on the ground, and try to just nestle myself in there and, hide the best I could. Or I could try to get in that shagbark hickory tree. So, and the bad thing about that tree is, I mean, it's out there on its own, so there's absolutely zero back cover. And, it's December, so there's no leaves on the trees or anything. But I decided that I was going to try to get in that tree. So I took my lone wolf stand and two sets of sticks, and that tree had some branches on it, and so I put one stick around the base, and then I could go up 2 limbs, and then I put the other stick up there, and then I went up another limb and hung my stand. And so the deer were coming out. They were all going to be to the south of me. So I faced my stand to the north, to where I was kind of behind the tree to hide myself better. Cause I mean, I was in the wide open. I was sticking out like a sore thumb. And I mean, I was a nervous wreck. And
well, you knew there was going to be a lot of deer in there too, cause you've been watching.
Right, that's what worried me was, I'm going to have 40 different sets of eyes on me.
Right.
And so I normally try to self-film all my hunts, but I told myself, I'm like, I'm not taking my camera. I'm not, I'm not going to get seen because I'm trying to get it on film. Because I just do it for personal.
Right.
And
guaranteed best way to know you're going to see him that time.
Exactly.
Yep.
It happens every time. I honestly don't know why.
Every single time. So I'm sitting there, I made sure to get in there early just in case, I had to sit on the ground. I could, trim some brush and try to make a blind. So I was sitting there, and deer started to come out, and, does and little bucks. And it was about 45 minutes before dark when I had seen him 2 days before. And then, so it got to be about that time, and I had seen there's another buck out there with him, a 3-year-old, a pretty good 3-year-old, high 130s, right at 140, 3-year-old. And he come out and walked right by me. And so I let him walk. And
how many deer are in front of you right now?
I'm going to say 30.
Geez, so you had a lot of eyes.
I am frozen solid to that tree. And I screwed my bow into the limb to where all I had to do was just, I didn't have to reach out and grab it. I just had to pick it up off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to, limit my movement as much as possible. And so so like I said earlier, this tree is 70 yards off the road, and these deer are coming, they're crossing the road, and they're coming right beside a guy's house. I mean, just literally right through his yard. I mean, it's an old guy. He never, if you weren't from here, you would think that nobody lived there.
Oh, really?
And yeah. So, I mean, all those deer are coming through his yard. So I'm watching that buck in the field, and I'm watching all the other deer, and that buck looks behind him, and I look back there, and here he comes right through that guy's yard. I mean, it's just, it's just funny because he's just walking literally right through a mowed grass yard and crossing the road. And there's an absolute cattle path going through the middle of the field where I'm at, and he was on that path. And I had ranged it when I got in the tree, and it was 32 yards. And then there's another one behind it that was like 53. And so I told myself I wasn't going to range him when he came in because that was a good way to get pegged. And so he was on the far trail and coming through the field, and then he actually angled towards me and hit that other trail and come right in there at 32 yards, right on that path. And I was so, oh man, my heart was racing when I was trying to get drawn back on him.
What's the temp? Was it pretty cold?
Yeah, it was like 15 and it was freezing. Yeah, and I was so nervous I was going to get seen. I just drew back as, as quiet and stealthy as I could, and drew back, and, nothing seen me, and settled my pin and heart shot him, and he ran 40 yards and fell over.
That's crazy, man. So nothing picked you off then? No does, no other deer?
Nope, nothing.
That's crazy. I mean, when you sent me that picture, so you sent me a picture from the road looking at that tree,
Yeah.
and I'm like, how in the hell did all these deer come by this one tree? You know what I mean? It was your only option, literally, your only option.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, that's why I
crazy.
seen that picture of it, because, you can say, oh, yeah, I was in this tree and, had so many deer in the field that are going to see you. And, then you can paint a picture in your head of, whatever you want it to look like. But, I mean, when you see the picture, that was my only option. So, I mean, it was pretty wild.
It is. And, that's crazy how you just kind of took advantage of, the bean field being, the farm not being able to get in there. And, you hear stories like that all the time, because that field is probably a field you'd overlook all the time. I mean, who would be out there hunting in that field unless that was the only place that they had,
Right.
So you had the perfect situation and went in there, adapted to it, and capitalized, and just so happened this is the deer. It's Kevin. It's Kevin. What was his name? Kevin Bull.
Yep. So I called my brother and I said, that's the first thing I do whenever any of us kills a deer is we call. I call my brother and he calls me, and then we call our dad. So I called him and I said, hey, I need you to come get me. Kind of sounded disappointed.
Yep.
And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I just shot Kevin. And so we just got all excited, and he come and picked me up, and we hauled him back home. And that's the story of Kevin.
That's sweet, man. That's really cool. And like I just said, adapt into that situation and being able to, get him on the ground. Now the property that he came off and all those deer were coming off, the old guy there, does anybody hunt that property?
So that old guy that lives there, he just owns like a little lot right there.
Oh,
And then,
okay. So he doesn't have like a big chunk or anything.
No.
I gotcha.
And then all the ground behind him is kind of like split up. It's a lot of small parcels.
Okay.
And so the ground that he came off of was pretty much his core area.
Gotcha.
So it was, yeah.
So is it pretty thick back there, and that's probably
Yeah,
where he was living and everything?
Yeah. Where he was, I'm assuming he was bedded at whenever I killed him, is like walk on your hands and knees to get through there thick.
Right.
And we don't go in there outside of shed season.
Okay. So, you put a bow on last season with Kevin, and now goalposts or any other deer, like what we're here now in May, shed season's kind of wrapping up. People are still finding sheds, but what's your goal going into this next year? You going to try to get back on goalposts, or do you have any deer that you're really hoping that are going to flourish this year, or you're really looking forward to?
Yeah. So goalpost 100% number one hit lister, no doubt. People are going to call me crazy, but if I got a picture of a 200-inch deer, I honestly still think that I'm going to go hunt goalpost.
Really?
Just because, I've tried to kill him since he's been 5.5, and he's just flat out kicked my tail. You know, it's more of a, like it, you know, I mean, now it's like personal, like,
Yep.
okay, I want to prove to myself that I can kill this deer.
Yep.
And I actually am kind of excited about it because I found a tree that I think that I can kill him in. So where he lives is right, it butts up to the interstate, and it's a 200-acre chunk, and it was logged. I don't remember, probably 8 years ago. And so half of it, we don't even go in half of it between the interstate and halfway through the property. We don't even go in because it's so thick. I mean, it's head high, you know, super thick stuff, just a bedding haven. And so you can see it on a map. On the back side of it, right along the interstate, there's like a funnel that comes into a big thicket. But the problem was, I mean, ever since we started hunting there, we could see it, but we just didn't know. I mean, you can't hunt it because you can't get in there without scaring everything.
Yep.
And so actually during shed season, we found out that to get in there, I can walk down the ditch of the interstate and then pop in the woods about 80 yards and be on one side of that pinch point that comes into that thicket. And in that thicket, on the outskirts of that thicket, is where every picture that I have of him during November is at. So
you got to think that's probably his core right there.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited about getting the opportunity to hunt back there. It's going to be kind of sketchy, but I mean, walking down the ditch of the interstate, you know, 10 foot from semis at 4:30 in the morning. But,
Yep.
I mean, if I think I can kill him by doing it, then I'm going to do it. It's like a mile walk.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a buddy in Missouri, and one of his farms is next to, like, right on the tree line is a railroad, and he timed the trains go by like every so often. I can't remember what it was, like every 25 minutes to a half hour or something like that. So on his morning hunts, he timed it out to where he would get to a certain point and wait for that train, and then when that train would come by, he would just hightail it into the woods and get to the base of his tree and try to get up his tree before the train went by. And he's killed some giants doing that. And it's another one of those things, you know, the interstate could help you out a lot, you know, waiting for cars. Yeah. It might take you a little longer to get in there, but it might help you out a lot.
Right. I mean, it definitely covers your noise for sure. And, I mean, it's got its drawbacks too, because you're sitting there 80 yards off the interstate, so you can't hear anything.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can't hear a deer coming through the woods. You got to see it. But I mean, that's my only opportunity to hunt him.
Yeah.
Outside of hunting there, I'm gonna have to just kind of hope that a doe brings him by me on, you know, the outside of that thicket.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, cool, man.
I'm pretty excited.
I hope you get after him this year, and maybe we can do another one of these podcasts talking about goalposts and just put a bow on that story later next year.
I know. I'm sitting here with his shed in my hand right now.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, we're coming up on an hour here, and I wanna be able to, you know, get you off here so you can have the rest of your evening. And I appreciate you coming on and doing this, and you know, and telling your story about Kevin and everything. It's really cool, really nice to meet you and everything, and we'll be for sure getting ready to follow, or you know, still follow you on social media and everything. Now, if anybody wanted to, you know, look at what you're doing and you maybe some of your videos and photos and everything, where can people go to see that stuff?
So best place to go is my Instagram, Blake.Wollerman15. That's where I post most of my stuff at, and then a little bit on Facebook too. And then if I ever get, I mean, I have a couple videos, but if I get a handful more, I'm gonna start posting some on YouTube. But I say Instagram is the best place to go to see what I do.
Well, cool, man. once you start getting some stuff up on YouTube, and let me know, and I'll start helping you promote that a little bit and get some more people over there watching your stuff. So
I appreciate that. That'd be awesome.
yeah, no problem, man. And like I said, thanks again for coming on. Justin, do you have any closing thoughts for anything? Blake, for anything?
Nothing specific. I mean, we've kind of touched on this in the past a little bit with some out of the box type of thinking when it comes to how to go about hunting these deer that are reaching these age classes that we all want to target. And I mean, sometimes, like you said, you miss a little bit of the food here. The combine can't get in. It gets too wet. It gets missed, or whatever. Or in the case with the interstate, use that to your advantage. Entry and exit, access, even that cover sound, that noise, like you said, that you can't hear them coming. They hear way better than we do, so that means they're not going to hear you coming either. So I mean, just cool ways to, a different perspective to look at this kind of stuff, and how to use some unconventional tactics that ultimately lead to some really great success stories.
For sure. Well, cool, man. Blake, again, thanks for coming on and doing this, and I guess we're gonna wrap this baby up.
All right, I appreciate you guys having me. I can
Thanks,
talk
Blake.
bigger all day long.
Well, maybe we'll have to do it again here soon. Maybe coming into season, or if you were, like I said, if you're able to get goalpost on the ground or have a good story or good encounter with them this year, with a Shrub, maybe we'll figure something out, get back on the horn and do it. So
Sounds good.
Yeah, definitely.
all right, Blake, thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Yep, thank you guys.